Now, we'd like to have our opening program, and that would be turned over to Ms. Richards. Would you do the recognitions?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening. I am so honored to have O.W. Dillon and Kentwood High in the house tonight. We will have our Pledge of Allegiance by Madison Winters from O.W. Dillon. Please stand.
Will everyone please stand now for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated.
At this time, we will have our choir with Mr. Andre Harris, O.W. Dillon, music teacher.
Big.
And it's good to see our principal from Kentwood High School come through the door.
Rock And if I may, very quickly, something, if you all just be seated for just a moment, I want to point out something amazing about our choir. I asked on Friday, I noticed there were a lot of students that received honors and awards previously, and I asked on Friday a question, so I'm going to ask this again. How many students, if you have 2 B's and all A's, raise your hand. Put your hands down. If you have 1 B and all A's, raise your hand. If you have all A's, raise your hand. These students did this on their own. I present to you O.W. Dillon Elementary School Choir.
Thank you so much. That was just wonderful. Thank you.
Can you introduce them to us?
Yeah, I'd like to hear their
I'd like
names.
to hear- yeah.
And family members also to stand.
Okay, we have one leaving. No one over here.
Okay.
Come up to the front and introduce yourselves. Give your name.
You can take it off and hand it to them.
Just say your name. And your
Your name.
My name is Euless Power, and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is John Smith, 4th grade.
My name is Madison Winters, and I'm in the 6th grade.
My name is Mariah Power, and I'm in 6th grade. My name is Harmony Martin, and I am in the 4th grade. My name is Tiara Lovelace, and I'm in the 4th grade. My name is Paris LaBruce, and I'm in 4th grade.
Parents, would you stand up and give
Please stand.
yourselves a hand for these choir members? Thank you very much for bringing them and supporting O.W. Dillon. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. That's good. Thank you, Miss Janice. That was great. All right, roll call, Miss Jenkins.
Ms. Richards?
Present.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Ms. Abrams?
Here.
Mr. Westmoreland?
Present.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Bush?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Ms. Simmons?
Here.
Mr. Mingus?
Present.
All right, item 1D, consider approval of board minutes of September the 17th, 2019. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Toller, second by?
Second.
By Mr. Mingus. Any objection? Motion passes. Item 1E, consider approval of board minutes of September the 26th, 2019. Motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Mr. Mingus, and a second by
Second.
Mr. Westmoreland. Any objection? Motion passes. All right, Mr. Westmoreland,
Yes,
recognized.
I'd like to move to add an item to our agenda tonight, waive the rules to add the Capital Outlay Committee of the Whole agenda from today, 10/1 of 19.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Westmoreland, second by Mr. Toller,
Third by her.
third by Mr. Vegas. Okay, any objection? All right,
At
motion
this time,
passed.
I'd like to move to adopt and approve the agenda items A through D in the capital outlay agenda from today.
And second by Mr. Toller. Any objections to this? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item,
Slow down. Speed bump.
speed bump. Oh, you need to catch up? Let me know when.
You're not used to people telling you to slow down.
Too fast.
Actually, I guess since we added an agenda, we really need to give public input an opportunity to speak if there's anyone that wanted to speak to that tonight. So
Yeah.
we added it to the agenda.
Anybody want to speak to the agenda, the capital outlay agenda?
That was the changing of the fans from 2 ceiling fans to 4 pole-mounted fans to circulate air.
And then the 3 switching out.
All right, no item. Are you ready? Okay. All right. Ready now? Okay. Awards, recognitions. A, recognizing the President Student of the Month Award, and I want to call up Casey Jones from Roseland Montessori School.
Sandra, you want to bring all those?
Not yet. And then
hand it to you.
Miss Lena Newell come up, is going to, they nominated her, and the principal, Miss Vaquero. Casey, we have a certificate of recognition, Tangipahoa Parish School System, to award you the President Student of the Month to Casey Jones, a student at Roseland. And you not only have the certificate, but you have a little note from me with $20. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong part of it. Would you like to say something? Okay. All right, and the president, both of you.
I just wanted to say my name is Lena Newell. When I first got the email to have this opportunity to nominate a student, it didn't take me long to think about who it was that I was going to nominate. Casey was the first person on my mind. She not only stands for the 3 things that Roseland stands for: respect yourself, respect others, respect the environment, but she also stands for the 3 things that Tangipahoa stands for: be respectful, be compassionate, and be great. And that's Casey.
When I walked in tonight and I looked at Casey, I told her, I said, Casey, you are smart, you're kind, you're compassionate, you're loving, and you're definitely beautiful. You are the whole package, all in one. I'm very proud of her tonight. I know you're very proud as well. Casey works very hard at school, and she does set a good example for all of our students.
We would like for any family members with her staying, any family members with Casey, or anybody from the school with Casey. Would you stand? Again, I wanted to say that anybody can nominate any student that you would like to recognize in your school to be Student of the Month. All right, next item is recognize Kentwood High School Boys Outdoor Track Team for winning the 2019 Class 1A Boys Outdoor Track State Championship. Ms. Richards.
Go Rouge. Go Rouge. And that's hard for me to say. That's really hard.
Cowboys, that's not how we do it. Rule pride. Rule pride. I am honored to stand here. Coach Bates, principal, we'd like you to come on up. But I'm honored to stand here with these young men and Coach Brown, my son. Also, and it's so rewarding because we are a 1A school, technically. And also, we don't even have a track field. We don't have all of the hurdles and all of that and everything. And then we go all the way over to Baton Rouge to state. And these little fellas come back and win 1A state championship. Tell me what God won't do. So you can present it?
Yes.
Okay.
On behalf of the school board and our entire school system, we'd like to present this to the Kentwood High School track team. And thank you for representing Tangipahoa Parish so well at the state level, as always.
Okay, say something. Say something.
This is not my cliche, it's being in the front talking to everyone. It's a real honor to be back in Kentwood as far as a Kentwood High School graduate. I talked to Coach Bates, Ms. Smith, about being one of the first to graduate from Kentwood to come back to win a state championship. That's a real great honor. I thank God for blessing me every morning with my family, and also for me to actually have the strength to install knowledge into all these young men. They buy into everything I actually say, and I appreciate that. And this is a real good group. I have basically all honor students looking forward to going to four-year colleges after they graduate. And these guys are workhorse. Like I was telling during the workshop, that these kids, they go from sport to sport. They don't have no breaks. They have no summers. And I really want to commend and thank the parents for actually giving them the opportunity to just to play as many sports they can and be there for their support. Last but not least, looking for another big run in state track meet. Even though we're in 2A, the number doesn't matter to me. We're going to compete against the private schools, going to compete against the public schools. We're going to let them know that Kentwood is there, and we're looking to bring home another one next year.
For some of you that may not know, this year we also won state championship in football, and our football coach is here too, Coach Foster. So we had track and football, and we were runner-up in baseball. So Kentwood did well this year.
Make sure your face is between two people's shoulders.
Cindy, you have some in the back they can't be seen. Can you move them?
I'm gonna just move it. Okay. Is that better?
That is better. All right, look here.
Would all those in support of these young men, would you stand, please, the family or the school, all of you that are in support? Congratulations. All right, the next item, 2C, recognize the recipient of the Enos Jake Bailey Jr. Above and Beyond Award, and that's going to be Ms. Heather Grace from Neeson School, and Mrs. Austin is the principal, and then we want to call up the one that nominated, and that would be Robin Abrams, school board member.
Usually, the principal nominates the person for the Jake Bailey Award, but Heather and I have been friends for a pretty good long time. She was my son's fourth grade teacher, and I really do believe if it wouldn't have been for her, he wouldn't have passed the fourth grade or the LEAP test. So she just went beyond her call of duty. But she stopped by my house a few weeks ago because she needed to borrow a pageant crown because she was going to be Glinda the Good Witch at a retreat. I know, y'all, it's crazy. But anyway, she started telling me about this book she was reading. We sat under the carport and we were just talking about things, catching up. And she told me about a book she was reading called The Energy Bus. And it was about a man that almost lost his wife. He almost lost his job. Well, he lost his job, and his car broke down. He had to start riding the bus. He didn't want to ride the bus. He gets on the bus, and the bus driver is just so upbeat, always greeting him with a smile. Couldn't understand why this woman was so upbeat all the time. She drove a school bus or a regular bus. You know how school bus drivers, you think to yourself, you got to stay upbeat. You got to do that all the time. So he was asking her one day, why do you stay so upbeat? And she said, you got to look at things in a positive way. You got to, if you think negative things happen. You got to always look things in a positive way. So she says she takes this book and what she read, and she wants to incorporate it into her classroom when we started school. So she tells all of her students, pretend like you're a bus driver. And every time you see someone, greet them with a smile, always has something nice to say. If you see them doing something that's gone beyond their call of duty, give them a pat on the back and thank you, and let them join our bus. Always make them feel like they're important. Not only does she do that with her students, but she said that she's in charge, I forget, what is the position you have now at the school? Interventionist at Neeson School. So teachers sometimes get stressed, as we all do with our jobs, and some of them will come in there and, complain about different things, and she'll tell them to stop. Let's talk about 5 things that are great in your life. One thing you could talk about personal, but the other 4 things I want you to talk about your job and what's great about your job. And by the end of their conversation, she said they would always feel good about themselves and not so stressed as they were when they came into her office or into her classroom. So it just hit me that this is the kind of teachers that we want in our school system, to always be positive about things, whether it's pushing your students to do the best thing or pushing your fellow employees or workers that are with you all day long. Push them in the right direction and make them want to do great things all the time. She is a true, what you say, as a leader and what we need in Tangipahoa Parish Schools. So I was when I called Miss Sandra that night, and I said, I really think this lady, she's been a great teacher. She started at Laranja. She's been to Independence Middle. She's at Neeson now. I would never want to lose her as a friend or as one of our teachers. Miss Heather Grace.
When Robin told me about this award, I wanted to strangle her because I don't do it for recognition. I believe in smiles and I believe in being nice to people, and a simple, kind word can go a long ways, especially with our students. Some of them, we don't know what happened that morning before they got to school. We don't know what happened to our employees. So if we can just greet each other with a smile and be grateful for the great things that are happening in our lives, we might see some positive energy going throughout the district, which I think is happening thanks to our new superintendent and our leadership, because I see it all the time over Facebook. So that was the message behind the bus. Thank you.
We have a certificate for her and also a gift certificate to La Coretta.
Ooh, that's a
You
happy
could
thing.
take me with you.
There's your certificate. Thanks again. Thank you.
Let me say this, I think that my late husband, Jake Bailey, who this is in honor of,
Right.
would be very proud that you have this award.
Thank you.
Without a doubt, you certainly are deserving.
Thank you,
Very
Ms.
much so, okay.
Thank you.
Want to do a picture?
Yes. I love pictures.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, get in the middle. Yeah.
Randy's camera shy.
All right, do you have family members?
I do. My
We'll
mom.
recognize them.
My
Please
mom and
stand.
my daddy are here.
Please stand.
Dr. Austin. And actually, her son called me just out of the blue about something totally different on my way here. He used to dog sit for me. So Dalton calls me for something. I said, by the way, did your mom tell you she's getting an award tonight? He said, no. As soon as he hung up with me, he went and fussed at her. He said, you know I would have been there.
Congratulations. I'm not going to let you off that easy. Miss Grace and I met Miss Grace at Laranja Elementary. We used to teach together, colleagues. We're still colleagues. But one thing I can say about her is she always has a heart for the children. And that is something that we can't live without. And always wanting to do what's best for kids, and always has a very positive attitude. And so I'm very thankful that you're a part of our team and that we're still working together. Yes, thanks.
Ms. Steele, you might want to, for the next one. All right, the next, is this on? Doesn't seem like it. The next item on the list is to recognize the donors to Amite Westside Middle Magnet School students, and would like to call up Ms. Pat Morris and the principal, Ms. English. Is she here?
Assistants here.
Our assistants here?
Both of them, the principal and the assistants.
Right,
here.
and we want to call out the names of Terrence Collins, would you come up? Charles Thomas, Derek Taylor, and Alton Drake, and Gary Stanger,
Yep.
clerk of court. Would you please all come up? Ms. Pat Morris let us know early on after these gentlemen made these donations that she wanted to recognize them because what they've done is amazing, and she's going to speak to you about that.
I sound like I'm in church. God, I'm so happy. Thank you, Mrs. Simmons, Mrs. Stilley, yeah. Thank you. First of all, let me thank God for answering prayers. I say that because we knew that there was a call to make sure that every child had a PE uniform at Amite Westside Middle Magnet School. We also knew that there were some kids who would not be able to do it. And I called different people. I talked to God first, and I talked to my principal, my assistant principal, and I said, God, open up a door. Open up the door. And I want to let you know he did just that. We figured out how much it would cost, and the amount I won't give, but the people that are standing around me now are the ones who made it happen for kids who otherwise would not have a PE uniform. I must say that at one time, as a little child, I was one of those kids who needed something, but my parents were not able to do it. And I promise God that if he ever put me in a position to where I could help or assist in helping a child, that's my heart, get what they need, I would do that. And I intend to do that until the day that I die. So we have the names of individuals, thanks to Mrs. Stilley, to Mrs. Simmons. A special thank you to Mr. Terrence Collins and Mr., my buddy here, Mr. Stanger, Mr. Stanger, who helped to make this possible, because when you pray and you ask God for something, I learned a long time ago, you don't try to figure out what he's going to do. You just believe he's going to do it. And as I was praying, I got a phone call from Mr. Collins. Didn't know who he was, and I doubt if he knew who I was. I hope he didn't anyway. But he didn't know who I was. But he had called Miss Stilley, and he said God had placed something in his spirit to do something for Amite Westside School. And he wanted to know somebody that he could call to help get the job done. And Mrs. Stilley told him to call Pat Morris. And the story began there. He was the one that contacted Mr. Stanger, and the rest is history. Every child at Amite Westside, boys and girls, now have a PE uniform. And I just have to say, when they're on the field, they look good. So I'm not going to take all of this credit. I'm going to delegate. I can do that tonight since my principal is always delegating me to do something. I'm going to delegate this to her and ask if she and Ms. Turner would come and make these presentations tonight. Thank you. Keep our school in your prayers because we need it.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Okay. We would like to present this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Alton Drake. Also to Mr. Gary Stanger. Okay. All right, also to Mr. Derek Thomas. Taylor. Derek Taylor. Thank you, sir. Also to Mr. Terrence Collins. And to Mr. Charles Thomas. We sincerely appreciate everything that these gentlemen have contributed to Westside. Thank you.
You just witnessed a miracle. A politician that doesn't want to talk.
We appreciate it. I have the children, for sure.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Next item, academic update 3A, restructuring of English language learners, ELL services. Ms. Lanier.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to be here. I tell you what, I want to thank y'all for always opening your board meeting with such positive things that we see from our students and our staff. That was just good for the soul to hear O.W. Dillon and all of that. That's just wonderful to hear it. All right. As you voted me in last year for Supervisor of Federal Programs, I have taken over that department, and part of that department is your English language learners. We're considered one of the larger districts in the state. Right now we have 510 ELL students and 105 that have just been screened. So that number is going to increase throughout the year. Of those ELL students, there are 84 migrant, and my migrant recruiter is Tuffy Campbell. She's here with us tonight. If you ever see her running through a store, she's after somebody to get them in the migrant program. So you'll see her kind of going through little stores and trying to catch people that don't speak English and get them into our program. 50 of those 84 students are also EL students. So we have kind of a blend of migrant and EL there. So you can see I've given you a breakdown there of how the students are broken down throughout our parish. The majority of them are in Independence and South. We have a few in the north end, but most of them stay towards the central of the parish and further south. Of our staff members, I have a recruiter and office assistant, and then we have 6 that work directly with the students. 2 are bilingual ESL certified teachers, 2 are tutors that are bilingual, very fluent in Spanish. So we have 4 of those 6 that are very fluent and can translate. Let's see if I can get this to work for the next slide. There we go. What we did was when I was looking at our stats, we have what's called the ELP test, English Language Proficiency Test. And before that, it was ELDA. And the students that are English learners have to take that test every year to see how we're doing with teaching them English. It's a federal mandate. And we have traditionally done very poorly in handling those students. So it just really bothered me to look at the fact that we had one certified teacher, ESL teacher, Sandy Duvick, that was actually servicing almost 500 students for our district, which is just impossible to cover the number of schools we have plus those students. She's responsible for screening the students to make sure that and doing LEP accommodations, getting instruction out there, talking with the teachers, translating. It was just an unbelievable task. So with speaking with Ms. Fussell and Mr. Jenko and all, I really wanted to change the program up. So when I looked around at some of the other districts, and I kind of stalked the other districts' websites, Jefferson being one of the big districts in Terrebonne, to see what they were doing, we have what's called a language immersion program, and you also have a blended platform that's out there that's being successful. So I took and I talked to Dr. Austin at NESM. She's got a very large EL population, and asked her if she would allow me to pilot a program there, and she did agree to it. Placed Liz Hines there, which is one of our bilingual tutors, for 3 days a week. And then once a week on a Tuesday morning, she and Sandy Duvick, our certified teacher, worked out a schedule with Dr. Austin and pulled the most critical students for a 2-hour block of language immersion program, face-to-face. Blended was being a 30-minute on the computer and the rest hour and a half with the students, going back to the basics, teaching them English structure, the sentence structure, nouns, pronouns, teaching them words and vocabulary and so forth so that they could learn what words are being used in the classroom. It was extremely successful. You can see from Dr. Austin, the buy-in from the staff was just tremendous. Liz stayed there 3 days a week, all day long, which the staff really liked. They could also go to her if they didn't understand something that maybe the student needed, or even a parent. It opened up communication tremendously. It built self-esteem in the students, and their test scores improved. So looking at the ELP scores, it also improved. Once we got, ELP takes place in February and March. Our team goes out, and not to disrupt student instruction, they do the testing. It is an online platform, so my team does the testing. When I got the results back, NESM did pretty good, but the rest of the district did poorly. They're ranked from 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a large majority of the students are 1 in most critical need. So what I decided to do was divide the district into 2 regions. We have 2 certified ESL teachers right now, and I divided the region into 2. The old way was just a student-based program where our tutors went in, pulled them out, sat them on a computer, no face-to-face. You've got to have that human factor in there. So this year we have 2 regions. I have Bertha Lanyo and Sandy Duvick, and we divided up the schools according to the population. So it's not necessarily divided north-south, but according to the population. I looked at the number of students that had a score to 1 on it. Those students getting a 1 will get direct instruction from those 2 ESL teachers. In addition, they can get support from our tutors that are there. The tutors are all school-based. Nobody's reporting to an office anywhere. They used to report on Friday to CM Fagan and do paperwork. The paperwork has been removed and put in to our office assistant, and that way they've got access to OnCourse so that those tutors and those teachers are completely with the students. The screenings that have to be done are done through the teachers and through our tutors. As I said, we did 105. So any student scoring a 1 gets language immersion class with the certified ESL teacher, classroom support from those federal programs, teachers. I sent out a schedule to the principals that said, this is your person, they're with you all day. So that way Greenville Park has somebody actually 2 days a week. They're there from the beginning of school to the end of school in order to support the students. Going in class also, because students have to have content instruction. They're tested on our state assessments. The first year they're tested, they are exempt. The school score is exempt if it's the first time they've been in a U.S. school. So if it's the first entry time in a U.S. school, then their score doesn't count against a school. But if it's not their first year, that score counts. And those scores hurt. You think, well, 500 students, but it actually really hurts. And again, we're considered one of the larger districts in this area. We still have a web-based program, and then we progress monitor every 6 weeks, which has gone back to our office assistant. She will actually keep track of what those students are making and seeing how we're doing so that we can make adjustments every 6 weeks. For the students that score 2 or 3, they're getting the classroom support by the federal programs tutor. They also can do web-based program, and I fixed this where they can do it online in a computer lab, in the classroom, or with a tutor. They can do it at home too if they need to, so that gives them the extra support. And again, progress monitoring. So we have 2 big regions. You can see that we're screening. They do ELL instruction. We have LEP accommodations that have to be done and met, and then those go in for any testing for state assessment, and we do translations too. And again, the tutors are all based every day at the school sites. A couple of the other things that we're doing, and technology is helping me with this. Microsoft Translator is a free app. You can put it on your phone. One of the other neat things that it can be done is that it will communicate with the Google Chromebook. It'll put the PowerPoint or whatever the teacher's doing up on a screen, but then the student can have earbuds in and it will translate in their language. So we have a few Vietnamese students too, so it will do that translation, and no one in our district speaks Vietnamese. The other thing that I've done, and we're going to pilot this for the next few months, is I've ordered a device that you can see on the screen. It's $159, but it does 70 languages. And I'm putting that with our the tutor that doesn't speak Spanish or another language. She's going to pilot that out at Greenville Park and at her schools to see how well it will work as a translation device between her and the students. If it is successful, and as long as central office will agree to it, and then I would like to place those at all of the schools with our Title III money. Title III is set aside for ELL students. So hopefully that would help us with a lot of our translation services, because I know that when I taught, I had a student from China, and they learned their language from the students most of the time when you can't speak it. And it's very difficult for the students to sit there and listen to you and pick up on the content just as well as it's hard for me to teach when they don't know the language. So we're going to pilot this device out too and see how well it works. So I'm hoping that what we will see on the ELP score will improve. Once a student reaches a 4, then they exit out of the program, and usually they do very well. So.
Ms. Lanier, would you
Yes.
introduce, is this the individual that's been helping you said?
This is Tuffy Campbell, our migrant recruiter. She's the one that like I said, you may see her in a store kind of following behind somebody.
Okay. Good.
She finds it, migrant and immigrant are 2 different things. A migrant is an individual that works in the agriculture and some other industry that has what's considered a qualifying move in every 3 years. And there's money set aside for them through, we get that through the migrant funding. It's Title I, Part C. And what happens there is that the reason why we have so many in Independence in the South is because of our strawberry fields and
Yeah.
so forth like that. Well, a lot of the people that have come here over time stay. And after they haven't made a move in 3 years, they become part of our population and not migrant. But we use some of the migrant funds to help tutor these students. So that's why you didn't see a large population number of migrant. But we actually have about 168 on our migrant rolls, and some of those are out of school youth and so forth. Tuffy services Livingston, Washington Parish, Tangipahoa Parish, and St. Helena. Right. St. Tammany, I forgot about St. Tammany.
Any comments from the board?
I have one.
Ms. Stilley?
Yes.
Got it?
Ms. Lanier?
Yes.
I just want to thank you for your forward thinking and, all of our students, and helping get their needs met. And I couldn't imagine being in a school where I didn't understand and where people didn't understand me. And so the immersion classrooms are proven
Yes.
to be more successful for students.
Yes.
Dual language, all of those are the things that we should be doing as you are leading us in. And so I really, really appreciate that and your leadership in that area. The other thing I was going to say was I met Miss Liz at NESM. We did Magic Monday there last week. And so after we did the donuts and carpool and all that, we went into the hallway, and the students were walking, to their classes. And I was saying, good morning, y'all have a great day. And, you know, some of the Spanish-speaking students, they just look at me, you know, like when they walk past, they're just looking at me. But Miss Liz was down the hall, and she was greeting them in Spanish, and all the students. And their little faces just lit up when they saw Miss Liz. And then when the classes started, she went into the classrooms and was supporting students in the classroom with their teachers. And so very, very, very good program.
It really makes a difference. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be in an area where nobody understood you and you understood nothing. It's, it really makes a difference to have even just one person. And it has been very successful. She's real good with the students. All of them have been. And I've gotten nothing but positive feedback on this. So I think we're moving to a good point.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Superintendent's reports and recommendations. You have items you want to read out?
Yes, Madam President. Item A, I'd like for the board to consider approval to refer these policies to our policy committee. That's EBBB, that's school and student safety. EBBC, emergency and crisis management. And JCDAG, which is threats of terrorism and violence, to our policy committee, our next policy committee. So I'd like to see if we can get a motion to send those to policy.
So move.
I second
Motion.
it.
Second by Mr. Westmoreland, motion by Mr. Toller. Any objection? Motion passes.
Item B, I'd like to ask Mr. Sonnenbach to come up. We want to consider the approval of the certificate of substantial completion for the Independence High Magnet School football field lighting project by GeoSport Lighting Systems.
Thank you, Ms. Superintendent. The Independence Lighting Project, the poles are installed, the lighting project is complete. We are presenting the certificate of substantial completion to the board for approval. There is a punch list of items that are still, the architects are still working with the contractor on, and the funds for those are being withheld, but substantial completion is needed so we can go ahead and take occupancy of the field and be able to use the field. So I need substantial completion for this project.
Okay, before we vote, we have a public input also, but I'm asking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Mingus. A second? Second by Mr. Moore. All right, and then public input before we vote. You go ahead, and then we'll have public.
Yeah, well, just some of the questions we talked about before. We can take possession of the field, so we can't use the field at all
We
unless
can't
do
use
this?
the lights because we don't own the lights. They're still owned by the contractor.
How much have we paid the contractor so far? Do you have a breakdown of that?
About $37,000 in that range.
And it was, how much was the initial, the project?
Closer to 300,000.
278, so we've paid
And
them,
there was some small change order too related with that.
so we paid about 30,000?
Yes.
And so we're not wanting to pay the full balance, or how much are we?
Well, the substantial completion doesn't have anything to do with the payment. The contractor has not submitted another payment document on the project. The substantial completion is part of the contract process, and there's a couple things that happen when we take ownership of the project. Subcontractors have 45, there's a lien period where they have 45 days to present their invoices to the contractor, and if they're not paid, then they could present them as a lien on the project. But the big thing here is that if we want to use the lights, we need to take ownership of the lights. The poles are installed, the lights are there, they have fully completed the work on the project. I know there's a lot of discussion on the condition of the field, and that's a different matter. It's not related to the use of the field and the use of the lights and the contract itself. So there's a lot of factors going into play in what damaged the field, how the field got damaged, who's responsible, what we did, what was done on the field, things of that nature, which create a lot of other information. But the bottom line is that it is a contract for 4 concrete poles and lights, and there are concrete poles and lights installed as per the specifications of the contract.
How, yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask a question. So will we vote on this, then we're accepting everything as it is?
There's a punch list of items that still need to be done. The architect can go over some of those items and describe that. I don't know what's on the punch list. I know there's some switches on the electrical switches that still weren't on site that need to be done. And I know there's a lot of other things that are on the list, and I don't know. But we're not making any disbursement of funds, but we are accepting the project as complete. And if down the road, when the contractor submits a bid application, then we would be approving that for payment.
Oh, you had a comment, Mr. Duncan?
Well, and I understand the substantial completion certificate, and that's, I don't have any questions or concerns about that, but I do want to make sure, I know we had gotten some correspondence indicating that we are going to be looking into any and all remedies that might be available to us as far as the damage that was done to the field, and I believe that work is in progress. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I had a conversation with our board attorney, Mr. Moody. We're looking into not only the cost of repairing the field, looking at possibly the cost of the loss of gate, of not having a home game last week, not having homecoming at the field this week.
And of course,
Any additional costs to finish repairing the field, all that's being discussed
right,
as we speak
and
now.
of course, voting on what's on the agenda tonight does not impact our ability to pursue those remedies.
That's absolutely correct.
The other thing that I wanted, and based on my conversations with you, is that we have engaged the services of someone, a professional, or we at least have begun the process of engaging the services of a professional to go in there and
Look
at getting that
Correct.
turf
The,
hopefully better than it's ever been. Is that, can you describe that a little bit?
It's absolutely true, Mr. Duncan. The coach and our maintenance staff met with a turf pro professional today at 5 o'clock. I haven't gotten a report on it, but they were out the field today. The individual that we are using did work in Lafayette School the other day, was in Macomb School early this morning, so it's a professional that focuses just on athletic fields. He came to this afternoon. I don't know right now what the status or what needs to be done, but we're willing and we're capable of making whatever repairs need to be done.
So he's going to put a proposal together for us on how to make those fixes, and then hopefully we'll move forward on that as quickly as possible.
That's what we anticipate, yes, sir.
And then I think the last thing, just on that same line, is that we've also looked at the schedule for the football team. I think you told me that there's one game coming up that we're going to have them play at Hammond High.
This Thursday's the homecoming game. That game will not, as of right now, the game cannot be played on the field. The next home game will be October 25th, which is basically almost 3 full weeks away, and we anticipate to have the repairs and field in great condition by then.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ms. Abrams?
My question is, okay, you say that we can't use the field unless we approve this completion, this
We can't use the
certificate?
lights.
The
We
lights,
can't use
okay.
the lights.
How did we turn the lights on last Friday night, and we were going to play a game?
We shouldn't have used the field, and we shouldn't have turned, because the substantial completion document with the contractor was verbally approved. We talked to him, we let him know that, because he had presented the field to us, said the work was done. We let him know when we would be coming to the board to get substantial completion, and we had his permission to use the field, to use the lights on Friday night if we were going to play the game.
But then the LHSAA told us we couldn't because the field was in such poor condition, we had to move it to Laranja.
That's correct.
Okay. I have a question, and this is just because of my constituents asking me these questions, so I'm just going to put it out there to you. We weren't the board that approved this project. It was the board prior to us, which was in May of 2018 that it came to light. We got the court approval in July. In November, the bids were released, and bids were open on 11/29. We approved them on 12/4 of 2018, still not this board, it was prior board, approved to have this done.
That's correct.
On 4/10, pre-construction conference started. Okay, what happened between December and April? That's 4 months that nothing happened.
Well, keep in mind, the project was planned for, the big concern is these are 90-foot concrete poles. They were scheduled to be delivered on Independence High's campus after the school year ended and after the kids were all off the campus. That was the plan all along. They were scheduled to arrive on July 1, was the planned date after we started getting the project up and going. Right after July 1, we got Hurricane Barry, who came in and impacted, and delayed the delivery of the poles. In addition to the delivery of the poles, there were other factors that came in play. There was, in August, when the contractor went to install the poles, there was, it may sound odd because we're having a dry period now, but in the beginning of August, or in the August 20th timeframe, we had a lot of rain going on, and he couldn't get on the field. Yet on August 23rd, the contractor states the field was too wet, the crane couldn't be put on. On August 25th, again, he tried to put the crane on the field, it was too wet. So the contractor, and keep in mind, he made an attempt to install the poles on August 28th. That's when he failed to use the mats. That was one of the issues in the contract. It was clear that they were supposed to use mats to mat the crane before the crane came on the field. He did not do that. They attempted to install the poles. They set the first pole, had no issue. When they went to set the other 3 poles, they came across some subsurface water that created an issue installing the poles properly. They should have used caissons, but then the contract called for caissons. That would be, the caisson would be set into the hole, it'd be concrete into the hole, and then they would be able to dig inside the caisson to set the pole at the proper height. Okay? There was some big discussion between the owners, our architects, and the contractor on how that should move forward. And we came to an agreement. It took 2 weeks to come to an agreement. It took another 2 weeks for the contractor to complete the installation of the caissons and the poles. That's where the delay got into the job, when they came across that unknown hidden water that was 5 or 6 feet below the surface of the playing field. And I've got pictures of that. I've shown them to the superintendent.
Were they supposed to do a land assessment to see if there was water?
There was one done, yes. And the land assessment was vague on the issue, but said that you need to, before you start digging, to make a final assessment. The contractor didn't do that.
Okay, so that's 2 things that they did that they were supposed to do, the mats
That's
and
correct.
okay.
Can I follow up on your, Brett, just to follow up on her question about this gap between December the 4th and April the 10th? Okay, I want to just make sure I think I understand what she's asking, but at the moment that we awarded the bid, okay, from the school system's perspective, was it at that point the contractor's job to timeline, or was there anything that we were supposed to be doing?
At that point, the architect was looking at the lead time for ordering the poles, which was 12 to 16 weeks. And moving forward, that's when they set the date to have the pre-construction conference, because they knew at that time there was enough lead time to order the poles and get the poles toward the end of the school year.
But with Louisiana weather the way it is, I just don't understand why the poles weren't ordered in December. Even if we would have got them in early and we could have just laid them on the field until school was out, it would have been better getting them here earlier than dealing with the weather we've dealt with.
These are concrete poles that aren't supposed to be laying on the ground. They're designed to stand up. They couldn't lay on the ground for a long time. That was that's why the project was planned about it was all designed around the arrival time of the poles. I mean, Chris, you want to add to some of this?
No, that's exactly what we were told, and told manufacturer. We met with these people, during the design process. We were talking about doing concrete poles versus steel poles. I think concrete poles is what was requested the former board, and that was sort of an issue. And then also getting the poles to the site was a little bit of a trick, because they're having to go through the residential areas with the small turning radiuses, the streets in there. And like Brett said, these are 95-foot poles that are like 28,000 pounds, and there was some concern with maneuvering those and bringing those out to the site with children on the site. So when we talked with the school board at that time, we had board cooperation in those discussions. It was decided by everybody that it was better for the project and safer if those poles came in
School had ended and the kids were off the campus.
I get what you all are saying. I just don't, and this is what everybody in town and everybody's wondering, why it didn't happen sooner. The football field is not utilized in December. And there's nobody on the football field, nobody in that area during that time. The kids are on the other side of the campus. There wouldn't have been any children out there. They go to the field house, which is, they don't come onto the football field. So I guess that's why everybody's wondering why it took so long to get this project started, which is here nor there now. But then again, we on Labor Day, on 5/24, the last day of school, we had a month and a half before the concrete poles were delivered. So they got delivered in July. Then we had, like you said, Hurricane Barry impacted everything, which Hurricane Barry didn't get here until the 14th of July, not the 5th of July. Only reason I know that is because I was out of town. And then they started on 7/31. It's just the timeline of all of this, everybody has questions for. And, you know, here it is. 2 weeks ago, we could have put sod down, and this field would have been ready for the night of the first football game. And we were told sod couldn't be put down because it wouldn't take. So we put sand on the field. Well, now we're saying we're going to put sod on the field and try to get ready for the A-Meet game. So
I didn't say we would put sod on the field.
what are we going to put down?
Well, we have a turf pro who came today that we're going to get a report hopefully tomorrow morning to know what action he's going to take. We don't know what action is going to be taken right now.
So we're hoping that something's going to be done before the A-Meet game because we can't play on the sand.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Toller.
Did we have anything in the scope of work or in our bid where the contractor agreed to a timeline? Did we give
Yes.
any type of time frame on this
There are
job?
liquid damages on this. This project I mentioned in there is completed, to be scheduled to be completed, I think, on September 2nd with with two change orders. The actual completion date was September 25th. So there is some liquidated damages available on this project. Exactly how much, because there's some rain delays that he's indicated in emails that we have not discussed with him on. So there may be as many as 20 liquidated damage days. The contract says it's $175 per day.
And then the last question I would have on the change order number 2 with the water in the holes. I don't know what the term is, but I mean, typically in construction, you do some type of core sample. And that would just seem, especially putting up poles like this, that would be elementary at the beginning to do a core sample, come up and know what we're working with. If we didn't do that, if they didn't do that to start with, that's not egg on us, but it's.
We did it, though. We did it. We had us, Chris, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So someone to take the test of.
Chris, come to the mic, because this is all recorded live and broadcast, and they can't hear.
Sure. So we had soil borings that were done previously that went out in the bid. And in looking at the soil borings after all this took place, when they found the water, whatever, it basically stated in the soil borings that at that time frame that the water was not present in the borings and the testing. But it did go as far as to say that before they, go into boring or whatever, then you need to test to check and see where the water table is. And what they're telling us is that, well, we went in, we did our first hole that we dug, and there was no issues. So they proceeded to the next hole, and the next hole was when they hit the water. And then they went to the second, the third one, and then to the fourth one. They said, okay, there's a problem here. And that's when they called everybody and said, we have an issue here. We're running into groundwater. And from then is when we started trying to assess the situation, see what could be done. We had they have the pole, or the contractor has his structural engineer that designs the pole foundation come out to assess the situation and said, well, you can use metal casings. And then they altered the foundation and went ahead and took that route, and then the poles got stood up.
Are you saying that the water table was at a different height from one hole to the next hole? I'm not really following what you, like,
No, I'm saying from the soil borings, when they took the initial soil borings, when they did the test, the bores out there, it registered that there wasn't any, I think the wording was like, no groundwater was detected at this time. So I guess he was, instead of trying to investigate or to find out where it was, he claims he investigated when he dug the first hole, and he said we didn't run into anything.
The first hole was dug, it was fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It set the pole without the need of a casing.
but then when the second,
But when the second one
they
hit-
went deep enough to hit the water table.
Right, well, they're all the
Going
same,
deeper,
they're all the
water
same
table is
hole.
higher.
So then the answer to my first question was right, that the water table was at a different
Yeah.
height
right,
in the
and-
second hole than it was in the first hole.
Right, and I think what my attribute to that is that, we're so far away from the river, and I think there's a lot of sand pockets and stuff through there, and I guess just where the last three were, hit like the sandy area, and I guess the water was fluctuated differently than it did in the one just, on the other side of the bleachers.
One more question on the mats that they were supposed to use. I've spoken to the coach, and he said they were supposed to use the mats, and they were supposed to stay on each corners of the field, because the 4 light poles are on the corners of the field. Why was it necessary for them to take that equipment across the field where the most damage is in the center of the field?
You'd have to ask the contractor that. We specifically laid out where they needed to take it, and what they did when they brought the poles in, they stayed, it didn't look like they were in the center of it. They stayed on the sides of the fields with the poles, but, I mean, that's, I guess, where they were staging them at, because, I mean, really and truthfully, there was no other way that they could stage them, because, I mean, you have to get, and I think they were.
But at the beginning, they told us they would not get on the field itself.
Well, they knew that they were going to get on the field, and that's why we put in provisions that, hey, if you get on the field, use the mats. Now, mats don't save the field. Like, you can't just move the mats and say it's all fine and good, because, these are, like I said, these are heavy-weighted items, and the cranes themselves are extremely heavy. And they're going to push the mats down, but what I think the reason why you use the mats is that it sort of uniformly depresses it, right?
Mhm.
And it doesn't make the
Dip.
rut, right?
Mhm.
But Ms. Abrams, the biggest damage was done along the side, and it wasn't really done by the crane. It was done by the crane lifting the pole and dragging the butt of the pole from its resting spot to the hole that is being put in. And that's where the damage was done. So, and we got pictures of that happening. They lifted the crane, lifted the top part of the light pole, dragging the butt 30 to 40 yards across the field. That's where the damage was really done.
So back to what Mr. Randy said earlier, going with the cheapest bid is not always the best.
We're required to follow state law.
I know.
Which is different from quotes to bids. This was a bid project, so there was no alternative to go with anybody other than the lower bid if they met with the criteria of the bid,
Correct.
right?
Anything over 150,000.
Madam President,
Yes.
so voting for the substantial completion has nothing to do with releasing the funds or damages that we may be seeking against the contractor.
Correct.
Thank you.
So it has nothing to do with the payment for this contractor?
No, it has everything with taking the ownership of the poles.
And
Moving
starting a
forward for
lien
the-
period, starting the
lien period,
45-day
right.
lien period.
Right, and they're obligated still by contract to complete those minor things that are left to do, But the lights are working, they're in a position where they can be used, they were turned on and tested, and, I mean, they were played with, and so they work, everything's in place. There's just some last-minute things, like if you look on the list, we want to make sure that they fill out the panel description, which light is controlled by which switch, it's minor things like that.
So they haven't received a check yet?
Well, they, only one early on, which was 37,000, which was something that I think that covered, there were some unforeseen issues with the way the existing wire was there, but that was all remedied.
Will we know before you all pay the final payment?
Oh, yeah, they'll, when they send in their final payment, of course, we're going to look at it and make sure that everything's in order and that, we're holding out that punch list value. And at that time, we'll make the proper recommendation on release, if we feel like it's warranted. And then I'll send that on to the superintendent.
How did they look?
The poles look great.
The lights, they work.
Oh, yeah, no, they
Rob,
did.
have you seen them? Have you seen them?
Yeah. It was a
they-
bright field for the whole
It lights
15
it up,
minutes we
too,
were there.
They're LED lights. It's nice. It is. It's just, it's unfortunate what's happened with the field.
Absolutely.
May I be heard? The question is, does accepting the job now and approving the substantial completion affect payment? Well, it basically says you're accepting that they've substantially finished it and it's fit for use. Now, there may be a question of some other damages and holdouts because of little knick-knack items on the punch list. And for that, we always hold money. And typically, you also hold 10% retainage to handle any liens that may be out there against the property. So that's all standard. What gives us pause here is that ordinarily substantial completion triggers a payment, less the punch list. This contract is not quite set up that way with their scheduled payments. So
I wouldn't tie my leg up and I put the rubber band around it, and the doctor said,
trigger that process.
that's TV.
And also, let's see if we can pay that less the punch
That's,
list
yeah.
and this damage estimate that we have. Ideally, we'd have this estimate for the repair of the turf that we could add to the punch list. So one consequence of accepting it now is that we don't have that to be added to the punch list. So we were with a dilemma here to whether or not to bring it to you tonight, because we would like to have that in place. But the problem was, if we waited another 2 weeks, that may delay the actual acceptance of the job and the use of the field, et cetera. So we're kind of sticking our neck out a little bit here on that item. So I just wanted you to know that, so if that eventuality comes to pass, you can advise.
We don't have a game until the 25th.
That's true. So,
We don't need to use the
another
lights.
option is to delay the acceptance of the substantial completion. The staff and your architect wanted to bring this to you so that you laid out all the facts, so you could make an intelligent decision. There is some consequence of accepting this, so.
Well, the next meeting's the 15th.
We play a meet on the 20.
So are the repairs for the field, are they actually already been, hasn't started?
Actually, there has been some repairs to the field, and our director of maintenance has sent a text to the contractor telling him he was pleased with the repairs done. So he's kind of tied our hands on some of this work. And then in addition to that, we played on the field. We allowed the Little League football team to play on Saturday, and we played our junior varsity team on the field. So now since then, we've gone in and we've pulled the field, we've fertilized the field, we repaired the watering system, we're watering the field. So the field's improving every day. Grass is growing and improving, getting better. Now, we're meeting with the turf people today at 5 o'clock, and we're going to report of what it takes to finish repairing the field. But there's been a lot of repair to the field already.
Did we use the lights for the junior high game?
I don't know.
Okay.
Did we?
John says yes, we did.
Yes, we used the lights at the junior, but we didn't get permission to use that. We got permission to use the lights Friday night that we
Okay.
didn't have a game.
So the repair of the field question is going to be a little messy, because I'm sure the contractor is going to say, well, hey, I fixed it and you said it was okay, and then you played on it, so how much of this damage is mine and versus yours? So we're going to have some issues to work through. But hopefully they won't be that big an item, because the field is already getting better. Maybe this expert will say, you can do A, B, and C, and it'll, won't be a terrible expense.
Well, question again, so if we did not approve this, if we don't approve this tonight, what will happen?
Well, that will push back your timeline about when you can use the lights. Because you have to have substantial completion unless you have the contractor's okay to use his lights.
Well, our next game is on the 25th. October the 25th is, we will be playing a meet. So we have our next board meeting is when?
15th.
15th, 2 weeks.
So, I say we don't approve this until until the next board meeting.
Why don't we make a motion to table this till the 15th?
What?
Yes, Mr. Dominguez.
I would like to hear what the recommendation is, actually, and from the superintendent, before we start saying, do this, do that, because there's a lot of new board members here that don't truly understand substantial completion and payment in the whole process that he's trying to explain. It's just a lot more to it than saying we're going to pay them or not. They have installed the lights, they have installed the poles, they damaged the property, but the actual job that they were hired to do, to put the poles and the lights up, has actually been done. So if the lien process and the 10% is held, and we have enough money that will cover all of our expenses, should they not do anything else,
Yeah, but
we
don't-
still
we
have
don't-
to
we
pay
don't
them
know
for the
that, though.
lights and the
He's- Like he
poles.
said, he don't know until the turf guy looks at it to see what other money's going to have to come out. That's
Right.
why we have
Ideally,
2
you
weeks,
a
so we don't
complete
really.
Punch list when you do the substantial completion.
Anything for field on there?
But we do know how much it's gonna cost to repair the field.
No, we do not.
No,
We
don't
know,
that.
we don't.
But we do have $19,000 of value on the punch list itself.
Do we know if it's gonna cost more than that?
Well, that's the punch list items we've identified. So the field would be in addition to that, and we could certainly add to the value of that and not, we could hold out another $10,000 from the payment. Keep in mind, this project's a nearly $300,000 project. We paid $37,000. So we owe on this project for the poles close to $250,000, not counting the punch list and not counting extra funds for the field if that's what we want to request.
Mr. Duncan?
Another thing that
Oh.
you could do is if you didn't do substantial completion tonight, he could ask for a payment, at least toward the payment of the lights in his out-of-pocket. So he could ask for a payment toward the contract, even though it's not substantially complete.
And that's done on all projects.
All
you know,
projects we do that, so that the contract.
Intermittent payments.
Right, gets paid as the money flows out, so you're still protected.
Mr. Duncan?
I want to just make sure, so if it's tabled over to the 15th, we don't have a game until the following Friday. By tabling it, I'm sorry,
I don't know if we have junior varsity games, Mr. Duncan. I know we don't have a home varsity game, but I do not know the junior varsity schedule at this particular time.
okay. But we're also going to be hopefully making repairs to the field during that time,
Correct.
2-week time period anyway, and we have plans to send those games to other fields. Probably not a good time to play on it while we're making these repairs anyway.
That would be our recommendation.
But, I'm thinking, and Chris, this would be more, I think, to your question, to Mr. Moody, if we're having, or both of you, if we're having negotiations with this company about the punch list for the next 2 weeks, would it be helpful in your negotiations to have a vote from us that essentially signals our displeasure and possible unwillingness to accept this project until we have agreed on these terms?
I would say that you need to have your punch list complete before you do substantial completion, because you can't add to that afterwards.
And so we're hoping to get this plan from the horticulture guy. Yeah.
But you guys don't meet for 2 weeks. So that was just part of our urgency, was trying to get this as far as we can, and so that we could get the project,
So-
accepted and usable, so.
Does it really delay anything then to move it to the 15th as far as actual use of the field? That y'all can think of?
It's not a legal question. I mean, you can delay, I think you're better off legally.
Okay.
So don't forget you have public input requests too, Mr.
Yeah, we have that. Did anybody else have a comment before we have
I
public?
just have one more question.
Yeah.
So with the motion, could the motion be to accept substantial completion with the punch list, adding the turf people recommendation?
We're not going to do that.
All right, public
Do we move to table it before public comment, or do we let public input?
Yeah, public comment
And
first.
once you make a motion to table, it's non-debatable, so it's-
Yeah. All right, Mr. Polita?
I don't think I need to introduce myself. Y'all know who I am. I'm glad the board's considered tabling this project to the next meeting. What y'all got to remember about the punch list, A lot of contractors will walk away from a punch list, take that loss and make it up somewhere else. So you better watch this project. There wasn't a project manager over this thing, and that's why this happens. I was there when they pulled the old poles up. I watched it every day. Some days they weren't even there working. Okay? We can't unring the bell. But we were deflated. The community was deflated Friday night when we couldn't play that game. Players were. And watch your punch list, because they will walk away from that punch list and take that little loss and make it up somewhere else on another project. Thank you.
Is that all?
Go ahead and make.
I have a motion I'd like to make, Mr. President. I'd like to move to table this agenda item until the October 15th agenda.
All right, do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Abrams. All right, we have any objection?
I'd like a comment.
Sure.
I might be a new school
Well,
board member, but I do understand certificate of substantial completion. And I say we table this because this is embarrassing to our school system and our school, and especially the people of Independence. And I'm sorry that it happened to y'all.
All right, any objection to postponement? Any objection? All right, that passes then. The motion passes. Next item.
Next item, well, I'll turn my mic on. Update on the Tangipahoa Parish Fair events. Just for public record, our school system is closed on Friday to allow our employees and our students and their families to participate in the Tangipahoa Parish Fair. And the fair event starting tomorrow night, LaRonja High School is hosting the Shake, Rattle, and Roll event starting at 5:30. You may remember in the past that most of these were held at the fairgrounds. So now I think they have different schools hosting, depending on if the school won the Spirit Stick the year before. So anyway, LaRonja High is hosting it tomorrow night, 5:30. There'll be all of our high school and I think junior high teams out there competing. Then Thursday night, they have family night, family pricing on tickets at the fairgrounds. The parade is at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, so we hope that...
Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday morning, thanks. Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and we hope that, everyone can join in the celebration of the parade. And we have on our Facebook page for our school district, also on the parish council's Facebook page, there's our website, there's the schedule of all the events for the fair, and so I just encourage the public to look at those and see what they could participate in this week.
I'd like to add something to that because she's not going to say it herself, but it was announced last night that our very own Miss Melissa Stilley will be the diamond for the Tangipahoa Parish Fair for 2020 year.
I think it's 2020, yeah.
They have now where they have a king and a diamond that they add, just like the Oyster Festival has the king and the pearl. Well, our very own Melissa Stilley will be the diamond for the Tangipahoa Parish Fair.
Good.
Congratulations.
Well, I'll try to shine brightly for the school system. Make y'all proud. The last item is journal updates. I just wanted to update the board. I see Miss Dina from the Tangipahoa Federation of Teachers here, and last week we had a wonderful opportunity to meet with our members of the Teachers Union 2 different nights. We had a South End and a North End meeting. Also, our leadership team joined, Ms. Vassell as well. And it was just really good to hear from the teachers and, hear the concerns and so forth. And many of the things that we've already heard from them, we're implementing and problem solving some things. We also had our teacher advisory last week with every school has a teacher of the year. We met with them last week on Thursday. So it was just a really good week, I thought, last week to hear from our teachers across the parish and just sort of, understand better how we can support them and the work that they're doing every day for our students. And so I just want to personally thank the Tangipahoa Federation of Teachers for allowing us to come and be there and and listen and take notes on that. The other thing, we have our parent advisory that's coming up in a couple weeks. We had about 50 individuals through social media want to be a part of our parent advisory. And so we have contacted those individuals, and we have that first meeting coming up in a few weeks. The other thing I want to say is that, just briefly, tonight was a perfect example of just the community outreach. I don't know if I've never paid attention to this that much before in my other previous roles in the district, or if it seems to be more and more, but it just seems like, every day our community, either individuals or businesses or social groups like, the Kiwanis or volunteer groups, are wanting to do more and more for our schools and our students. I just see it so much every day. And it's just amazing the support that we have in our communities with all of our stakeholders out there. And anyone out there that may be watching this live stream that's an individual who wants to do something to help students, or a business or a civic organization, I encourage you just to reach out. You pick a school. We have 33. Pick a school, call the principal, say, how can we help support, maybe a student who needs field trip money to go on a field trip. They've never, been out of their town. Maybe it's a student that needs PE uniforms. Maybe it's, whatever. But it means so much, not only to the students, but also to our teachers and our administrators. They're in the school every day, and they see the needs. But I'm just constantly amazed at just individuals that just contact us and say, here's what we can do. And sometimes it's a little thing, to them. It's not even things sometimes that cost a lot of money. But yet to a student, it's everything. And so from our mentors that are volunteering time in our schools to mentor students, to just volunteers, guest speakers, it's just amazing. And it makes me really, I have a happy heart when I think about all the people who just want to be a part of making a difference in our kids' lives. And I just want to publicly thank all of our stakeholders out there.
Good. All right. Personal privilege. Ms. Abrams.
I think I've spoken enough tonight.
Oh, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Mr. Duncan? Uh-oh. You too?
Good.
My goodness. All right. Mr.
I'm good.
All right, Ms. Rose.
Say something, Glenn.
You good too?
I'm the best.
All right, Ms. Rose.
I'm good.
Oh, and you neither?
I passed already.
Well, they're good. I get to give an extra long report tonight.
Oh,
Oh, goodness, that means Sandra gets to talk
You
long.
messed up.
I'll make a motion, we go in executive.
Here it is. All right, board members, get out that newspaper article that Miss Cindy left everybody. Where is yours? Get it out.
I was putting it up.
Okay. This is an article that was in the Star, I don't have the date on here, by one of our former students, and his mom and dad were teachers in our system, Brent Grigas. But he wrote this article in regards to VOTEC education, and it's not that we're not doing it, but to me it just reemphasizes the importance of it. And he said at one time he was a basketball coach at Hammond High, and as time progressed, his heart began to break, seeing how for many of his players, the 4 years of playing basketball became the highlight of their lives. Because after high school, they either wouldn't be able to go to college or weren't equipped to go to college or didn't have the money to go, where nothing else was going to happen other than what happened during those athletic years. And only 5% of the athletes would be going to college. So he said they either had two options, minimum wage job or illegal activities in the communities. And he said a kid can make the same amount of money on the street as he can in a minimum wage job. So, and he says here, until we make the vocational route more appealing, and we're doing that, we're working towards that, but this is to reemphasize that it's not going to get any better, because we have to admit a large percent of kids are not going to college. And then later on he says, in Caddo Parish, when he was there, that they have a career center for high school students that offered many opportunities for those not going to college, which would be welding and carpentry and AC work, as well as plumbing, plant work, cosmetology for the females. And they would take their core classes, and then they would go and enroll in these particular disciplines. He said that the kids were excited to attend school because they now had a purpose, and they were going to be able to get certified to do these various vocations. And he says, with opportunities like these, studies show that crime rates and drug addiction will decline when we have a place for these kids that don't go to college. And then he ends by saying, I am pleased to hear that in our community, in our area, that we have a freshman academy, Jumpstart, Pathways, and also a Louisiana Community and Technical College with these programs. And then he ends with, we must continue to push forward as too much praise can often lead to complacency. So, and he's right, that we need to always keep this first and foremost in our system, that we do need these tech programs. And this is one that went to college, and now he's getting a doctorate in something. But however, he had a heart for these kids that he coached that he knew probably wouldn't make it to college, and that they needed a place to go and opportunities to have a vocation in their life. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with each of you. It's an article worthy of repeating and keeping. All right, next thing, executive session. Mr. Duncan, you want to read the cases?
Move that we enter executive session to consider the case of Butler versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board, Wells versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board, and Ringo versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Westmoreland. No opposition? And we have one public input when we get back.
17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Now we have one public input.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
On B, Wells versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board, just note that there's no action. On C, which is Ringo versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board, we move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Public input.
Any objection?
I did that already. We'll do it again. Any objections?
No.
Passes. All right. Now, Miss Amy Brumfield.
I'll try not to use my whole 5 minutes so y'all can get out, okay? Usually it's my husband who comes this time of year, but as you heard earlier, we are in a burn ban, so it's very dry out, and so he is doing dirt work and preparing for festival this year. So it's me. So it's that time of year again. The Renaissance Festival kicks off the first weekend in November, and of course, we always come and invite the school board to come out on our student days. Our student day program takes place on November 12th, 13th, and 14th this year. I know Ms. Dominguez has been before. She brought along Ms. Simmons, and they can tell you, if you don't believe me, that it is a sight to see. Being able to manage between 15 and 20,000 students, teachers, and chaperones over 3 days, getting those buses in and out safely and securely, getting the students in and out, it is an undertaking. Most of our shows that day are geared towards education, especially for the younger children. Lots of demonstrations. We get schools from Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. So there are students coming from all over to our event because it's just that good. So we invite you to come out. The event on that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is from 9 to 2. You're welcome to come at any time during that time. I recommend earlier rather than later. Yeah, we can take you on a customized tour, show you around, show you what we do. You can milk a goat if you're there at 2 o'clock. It's up to you. But I just wanted to remind you that that's coming, and our educational component, our Student Day program, is something that we're super proud of. We've been doing it since 2002. So we're really, really proud of that. So that's 18 years just for the student part of it, and then we've been doing the festival. This is our 20th season. So you can come out on a regular weekend, of course, but we really would like for you to come out on our Student Day program and take a look at what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, that's 9 to 2?
Yes.
She gave you a brochure.
On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So Motion to close?
So moved.
All right, second?
Adjourn, second.